You're listening to Fuzzled, where structure beats hustle every time. If you want marketing that's designed, not reactive, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Does this sound familiar? You sit down to do some marketing. Perhaps you're going to write a post, update a page on your website, or finally send the email you've been meaning to send. Then you notice that the message is not quite right. That makes you question whether the offer is clear enough. Then you realise the website does not explain the offer properly. The website reminds you that your testimonials need updating. And then the testimonials remind you that you've not followed up with a few of your previous clients. And before long, the simple task that you sat down to complete has opened the door to half the business. Nothing has necessarily gone wrong. You've simply encountered the fact that everything in a business is connected to something else. And the difficulty begins when every connected issue starts to feel like something you must deal with now. Welcome to Fuzzled, from confusion to clarity, with myself, Paul Culshaw. So this is the podcast where we explore the why behind expert recognition, beginning with the clarity and direction that makes later recognition work more useful. And in this episode, I want to explore why doing more marketing can sometimes leave you feeling less clear than when you started. You can see so many things that could be improved that it becomes difficult to decide which one deserves your attention first. And the question is not simply how you can get more done. The more useful question is why all of those connected issues have merged into one large mental burden and how you can begin separating them again. So let's get to it in the big breakdown. So I think the first part of the problem is that connected issues can easily become combined priorities. Your message affects your content, and your content affects your visibility. Your visibility affects who discovers you, and your offer affects whether the right people know what to do next. And your confidence may affect whether any of that work becomes visible in the first place. And these relationships are very real, my friend. It would be misleading to pretend that each part of a business operates neatly on its own. But connected doesn't mean simultaneous. Two things can influence one another without both requiring your attention today. And that distinction is easy to lose when you're working inside your own business, because you're not experiencing your own website, you're not experiencing your own content, your offers, visibility, you're not experiencing your client journey as separate items on a tidy diagram. You experience them as unfinished thoughts. One task reminds you of another, one decision exposes three more. Every improvement appears to depend on something that has not yet been completed. And the result is that the complete business begins to enter every individual working session. Does this sound familiar? You might sit down to write one email, but mentally you're also trying to resolve your positioning, redesign an offer, and build a better marketing system. And that is a lot of weight for one email to carry. The confusion doesn't necessarily come from having no idea what to do. It often comes from trying to hold too many connected decisions at the same time. And that leads us to the second part of the problem, and that is when direction is unclear, more activity can create more noise for you. Indeed, marketing advice tends to favour action. Post more consistently, create another lead magnet, start a newsletter, record some videos, improve your website, or try another new platform. And there is nothing inherently wrong with all of those activities, but action is useful when it follows a clear direction. But when the direction is unclear, every new activity creates more decisions, more maintenance, and more information to interpret. A new platform creates another space to show up, and a new offer creates another message to explain, a new content format creates another process to maintain, and a new idea may feel productive because it gives you something immediate to do, but it can also move your attention away from the unresolved decision underneath it. You may finish the day having completed several marketing tasks whilst feeling less certain about what the business actually needs. And this is why scattered effort can feel so heavy and so unsustainable. The activity is real, but the progress is harder to recognise. You're using energy, but you're not necessarily reducing uncertainty, because sometimes the additional activity produces even more information. One post performs better than another, one platform brings engagement but no inquiries, and someone responds in a positive manner to one part of your offer but seems confused by another. So you now have more signals to interpret, even though the original direction was never clear enough to judge those signals properly. And the pattern I see is that the instinct is to maybe increase the effort again. More posting, more testing, more ideas, more changes, but greater volume doesn't automatically create a clear decision, because sometimes it simply makes the unclear parts of the business louder. And then, my friend, we have the third part of the problem, which is the belief that clarity will arrive when everything has been completed. And that sounds perfectly reasonable. Once the website is finished, the offer is settled, the content is planned, and every system is working, you will finally feel clear. But the trouble is that a business is never completely finished. There will always be another improvement available to you. There's always a page that could be stronger, an idea that could be developed, or a process that could be more efficient. So if clarity depends on reaching the end of that list, clarity keeps moving further away. Here at Fuzzled, we're all about clarity first, because clarity is not the reward you receive after solving every business problem, it's what allows you to decide which problem deserves your attention next. Clarity means being able to recognize three things: what matters now, what can wait, and what the next useful step should be for you. And that doesn't make the other issues unimportant, it simply stops them from competing for the same moment. You can start to recognize that your website needs work without turning a website rebuild into today's priority. You can recognize that your offer will need refining without trying to redesign it during the 1 hour that you had set aside for writing emails. And you can capture an idea for later without allowing it to replace the useful action already in front of you. And that's not ignoring the wider business, it's simply giving the wider business an order. The next useful step doesn't need to complete the journey. It only needs to improve the position you will work from next. And that might mean clarifying one decision before creating more marketing around it. It might mean completing one simple piece of work rather than opening several larger projects. Or it could even mean deciding that something that is actually really important can wait until you have the right information, time, or support. And the fourth part of this, which I want to explore, is the energy ceiling. So the energy ceiling is the point where your current way of working begins to drain your energy rather than support your growth. It's not a judgment about how much work you should be capable of doing, and it's not a suggestion that you lack motivation. It's simply a way of recognizing that every way of working has a capacity limit. Because when every connected issue is treated as a current priority, the mental and operational load keeps increasing. And that's not sustainable, because you're not only completing tasks, you're continually switching between different kinds of decisions. You're trying to think strategically, create content, evaluate technology, improve your offers, and respond to the normal demands of running the business. And the usual response to that is to compensate with more personal effort. You work longer, you try to concentrate harder, you promise yourself that next week will be more organised. And that might work for a brief moment, but it's not a dependable rhythm. A marketing approach that functions only when your energy is unusually high will become difficult to sustain during ordinary weeks. So the energy ceiling helps explain why this is not a personal failure. The current way of working is asking too many things to remain active at once. Once that threshold has been crossed, adding more activity is unlikely to create the clarity that you're looking for. So the useful response here is not to always push harder, it's actually to reduce the number of active priorities and build from a calmer base. So to follow on from the big breakdown, this is where the Growth Optimiser system gives Fuzzled its organising perspective. The Growth Optimiser system being one of my signature frameworks. It moves through 4 connected movements. Find your foundation, build a workable framework, create supportive visibility, and then refine what's already working. These are not 4 new projects to add to your list. They're a way of understanding how steadier progress develops, because finding your foundation means recognizing what needs to become clear and stable enough to support the work that follows. Building a workable framework means creating an approach that you can actually use rather than designing an ideal system that collapses during a busy week. Creating supportive visibility means allowing your marketing to help the business become understood without making constant visibility another source of pressure for you. And refining what's already working means improving from something real rather than repeatedly beginning again. The movements stay connected, but they don't all need to receive equal attention at the same time, because you might be strengthening a foundation whilst only making small refinements elsewhere. You may have a workable framework and need visibility that supports it, or you might already have useful activity in place and simply need to make it more dependable for you. And as a point of separation, the Growth Optimiser system is distinct from my other framework or methodology, which is called the Authority Engine. Fuzzled helps you create clarity, foundations, and a steadier rhythm, whilst the Authority Engine is a separate method, as I say, for building recognized authority through position, proof, presence, process, and profit. The important point in this episode is that clearer direction prepares you for deeper recognition work. It helps to ensure that when you're building your positioning, proof, online presence, and wider authority, you're building from decisions that make sense rather than adding another layer of activity to existing confusion. So this is a new section of the show, especially from solo episodes, which we're now in, and it's called the Clarity Shift. And I think the shift in today's episode is from thinking, I need to get on top of everything, to thinking, I need to identify the next useful step and build from there. Indeed, getting on top of everything sounds pretty responsible, but in practice it gives every unresolved issue permission to interrupt the work that you're trying to complete. The next useful step gives you somewhere to place your attention. It doesn't deny the complete picture, it simply stops the complete picture from becoming today's workload. Because clarity doesn't mean that you can see the entire journey in perfect detail. It simply means that you can see enough to make the next sound decision. So here's a practical thing you can do to have one useful next step. Take a sheet of paper or open a blank document on your MacBook or your PC, whatever you're using, and simply create 3 simple headings. What matters now? What can wait? And what's the next useful step? And the important thing here is not to use this as an opportunity to create a beautifully organized list of 47 priorities. The purpose here is to separate the business problems that have become mentally combined. So under what matters now, understand the one issue that really needs your attention at this stage, in this moment in time. And then under what can wait, place the connected issues that are important but don't need to interrupt the present. Then under what can wait, place the connected issues that are important but don't need to interrupt the present priority. And then choose one next step that will either reduce confusion, strengthen your foundation, or make the following decision easier. Remember, you're not trying to solve the complete business, you're deciding what deserves to happen next. So here's this episode's invitation to you. If your marketing feels scattered and you need a clearer place to begin, the Marketing Clarity Kickstart is designed to help you review your current direction and identify what needs your attention next. You can download it in the episode show notes. So on the final plink of that piano, here's my closing reflection for you. I think doing more can feel reassuring because activity gives you visible evidence that you're trying. But activity and clarity are not always the same thing. When everything feels connected to everything else, progress begins by giving those connected issues an order. One thing can matter now, another can matter later, and your next useful step can be enough for today. So I hope you found more clarity and direction by listening to this episode. If you're new to the podcast, do check out the previous episodes and subscribe to the show. It really helps growing content creators like me. Thanks for listening all the way to the end, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Fuzzled, where structure beats hustle every time. If today sharpened your thinking, you'll enjoy my weekly Friday feeling emails. Calm, honest reflections with practical structure you can build around. Join the Marketing Clarity Club at paulculshaw.com, and I'll see you in your inbox. Take care and keep building with structure.